Later, I heard another person in the courtyard ask this person that I think's name was Peter if he knew Jesus, if he was a follower, and he said no to them as well. The third time someone asked him about following Jesus, he got really frustrated. He adamantly denied ever knowing Jesus. Just as that happened, a rooster crowed. I think it was coming from the courtyard, and Peter looked shocked. He looked sad and upset all at the same time, and then he ran away. Peter, is that you?
Rachel, let me explain.
All right, go on. You can explain.
I want you to know we were very, very close to Jesus. In fact, we've given our lives to him for 3 years. We all said we would do anything for Jesus, and I really, really meant that. And I don't know why I denied him. I guess I was scared. I was frightened because I saw what the mob was doing to Jesus, and I saw what they were going to do to Jesus, and I just looked after myself. I remember you coming up and asking me, and I remember denying that, and I remember the others. And when I had denied him 3 times, I remember what Jesus said, that I would deny him 3 times. I said I would never do that.
So you were with Jesus for the Passover, and you still denied him?
Oh, yeah, we were all there. We were there. We celebrated that Passover, and it was a special meal. And after we ate, I remember we sang a hymn, one of our favorite hymns. And then Jesus, he wanted to go to the garden to pray. And so he asked James and John and me if we would go with him. And we get to the garden, and it's a beautiful garden. And we get there, and Jesus asked us to stay kind of in the courtyard and to just stay there. And he went on in because he wanted to pray alone. But you know the one thing Jesus asked? Stay awake. Just stay awake. But we were tired. We were really tired.
You know, I think I remember that because I was going towards the garden, or I saw him going towards the garden, and I followed him because I couldn't believe that I could get that close to him. Because during his entry into Jerusalem, I could barely even see him. The crowds were so thick. He would walk up, and we would all follow him. He would usually tell the crowd some story about a farmer or a rich man.
Yeah.
At first, the stories were mysteries, or so they seemed to be, but then I realized no matter what happened that day, it was as if he had been there, as if he had seen me. Slowly through the stories, I could see what I needed to do. He was always so kind, always speaking truthfully, like he was speaking right to my heart. I felt seen. I felt known somehow, like I had never been known before. My life was changing by the power that came from following him. This night was different, though. I could see him while he was still a long way off, and there was something heavy, something really heavy about the way that he walked. The other men were sober, not as jovial as they usually were. He looked at me, and it was as if it pierced my heart. He looked older, full of sorrow, grief-stricken. I stepped back into the shadows of the olive trees because I didn't want him to see me. And he told the men to watch and to pray that they would not fall into temptation. Then he went on so he could kneel and pray.
Yeah, let me tell you, Rachel, he was heavy. None of us had ever seen him that heavy. And all he asked was that we stay awake. And the next thing I remember, somebody shaking me, saying, Peter, you wouldn't even stay awake 1 hour, and I can't tell you how that made me feel. And then he left us again, and he gave us that same command, please stay awake. And again, we were tired. It had been a long, long day. Fell asleep again, and he came and he woke us up again, and then he left us once more. And I want y'all to understand it was impossible to stay awake. I've never been that. We've never been that tired.
So tell us, what exactly happened in the garden?
Well, again, we were sleeping, and that last time I remember James or John, one of them, they said, look what's going on. And I awoke from this deep sleep, and there were soldiers there trying to arrest Jesus. And I looked at them, and I said to them, I said, James and John, you can stay here. Nobody is going to mess with Jesus. We're his friends. We're his disciples. And so I said, y'all can stay here. And I just grabbed what was closest to me, a sword, and I started running, and I was just swinging. I didn't care what I hit. I didn't care who I hit. And that's all I remember about that.
Didn't you cut his ear off?
The high priest guard?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You cut his ear off. Malchus?
Yeah.
I thought that's what I heard.
Yeah.
What did Jesus do?
Jesus. It was simply amazing what he did. First, he said, we're not going to settle it this way. And he took the ear and he placed it back on, and he healed him. This man who had come to arrest him, Jesus loved him enough to heal him. And they took him away. Then there was a trial, and I tried to stay back from a distance just to watch, but I couldn't. That's when fear grabbed a hold of me, and it was cold. And I went to the fire, and Rachel, that's when I ran into you, and I denied Jesus. I'm so ashamed.
Oh, Peter. I think, for whatever reason, I think that Jesus understood. But after the courtyard, I saw the soldiers beat him. Some of them even spit in his face. They ridiculed him. Then they put a mock crown of thorns on his head and put a cross on his back. He was so tired. I've never seen anybody so tired. While we were walking along the road, he stumbled. The first time he stumbled, he was able to get back up, but then he stumbled again, and I just kept watching. This time I could see it was going to be impossible for him to get back up. There was this man in the crowd. One of my friends, a soldier, told the man to carry the cross. I followed all the way to Golgotha. There were two others, some robbers that were there who were crucified on either side of Jesus. Some of the soldiers gambled for his beautiful robe while they waited for the death. While they waited for all three men to die, they were gambling. All of a sudden it grew really, really dark, and Jesus shouted from the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me?" That's when the earthquake happened, and I fell to my knees. It was so strong I couldn't stand up. I looked up at Jesus, and I heard my friend say, "This must be the Son of God." I heard Jesus tell one of the thieves that they would be together, that he would see him in paradise. I came tonight in secret to find out more about who Jesus was. I am so afraid that an innocent man has been put to death. I came back here to this place because I thought some of you might be here. Some of you might be willing to talk with me. What can be done? What can be done? An innocent man was hung, your friend, and a friend to so many. What can be done? What have they done?
What have they done? What have they done? And Jesus knelt to pray. What have they done? What have they done? They took our Lord away. They brought him before the learned men so they could charge him with a crime. When Pilate asked him, "Are you the Son of God?" he answered, "You say I am." What have they done? What have they done? Early on that morn. What have they done? What have they done? They gave him a crown of thorns. They led him on a country road to a place where the mob could see. They mocked him and they laughed at him and they nailed him upon a tree. What have they done? What have they done? And Jesus knelt to pray.
We were supposed to be fishermen. My brother and I, our father Zebedee was a fisherman. And that day when Jesus came by, we were tending our nets, fixing our boats, just checking things out, doing what fishermen do. And he says to us, "Come, be fishers of men." And he wasn't asking. It was call, it was command, and we knew him. We had heard him, we had heard of him, and so we said yes, not knowing what we were saying yes to, not knowing what was to be expected of us, certainly not knowing what we were about to see. And for whatever reason, my brother and I and Peter, we had a special place. Privilege, favor, I'm still not sure what to call it. But we saw things that the other 9, the rest of us, didn't get to see. There was that time Jairus came to us and to Jesus and said his daughter was sick and needed Jesus to come heal his daughter. And so he got my brother and I, Peter, and off we go. And we're going through the crowds, and he stopped and he looked at us and goes, "Who touched me?" Could have been anybody. But he knew it was her, this woman, and he knew her story, that she'd been sick all her life. And she was healed. And we get to Jairus' house, and they said, "Don't bother, she's dead." And Jesus took the 3 of us inside, and we went, and he looked at this little girl, and he says, "Child, get up." And she did. He gave these parents, this mom and dad, he gave these parents their child back. And we were certainly amazed at the miracle, but we didn't know. And we went up once to the top of Mount Tabor, James and myself and Peter and Jesus. And this cloud comes down. And there's two men, Moses and Elijah, talking with Jesus. And we hear this voice, "This is my son." We're scared to death. Why were we there? What were we doing? What's coming next? We had no idea. We go on our way, this 3-year journey. We come to this Samaritan village, and the Samaritans had heard of Jesus, and they knew what he could do and who he was about, and they said he couldn't come in, and so we knew better. And so we asked Jesus, can we call down fire from heaven? Because that's our way to conquer. And Jesus said, no. We're going to love them. We're going to have compassion on them. We're going to extend grace to them. We're going to love them. So we kept going. And our mother one day asked Jesus for a favor. She asked if her sons, James and John, her boys, could sit on either side of Jesus in heaven. And he asked, "Can you drink the cup that I'm about to drink from?" And we didn't understand that, but we sure. And he said, "Yeah, you probably can, but this is not my place to give. Only my Father can give that place. So not right now." And then last night at Passover, he picks up the bread and said, "This is my body." Picks up the cup. "This is my blood." And then he asks us if we can go pray with him. So James and I and Peter, we go to the garden. The only thing he needed to do was stay awake, and we didn't. And then they came. And so we began to have some understanding of what the cup just might mean. And we began to understand maybe what he was trying to teach us about loving and serving and caring and sacrificing yourself for others. But now we don't know what to do, where to go.
In blackest night we hear him. In darkest Gethsemane, pleading with the Father for one more way, for one more day, for one more hope. My Father, let this cup pass from me. My Father, let this cup pass from me. Yet not my will, yet not my will, O Lord, but thine be done. Thy will be done. Thy will be done.
You know, he was different. I've been trying to think about what word I would use to describe Jesus, and I don't know, maybe captivating. I don't know. But I just know that from the first time I met him, all I knew is I wanted to be in his presence. I wanted to learn from him. I just felt drawn to him. I remember Martha would get so mad at me. Oh, I'm sorry, I should probably introduce myself. My name's Mary. I'm from Bethany. My family and I have a brother, Lazarus. Martha is my sister. And with Martha, you may know people like this, there's always work to be done. She's always scurrying around, getting things ready. So she would get pretty upset with me. Jesus would come to our place, and I would just be there learning and sitting and just being with him, and she would be doing all the work. And yeah, I got fussed out a lot, but that's what I wanted to do, though. I wanted to just be there and hear his stories. Nothing else mattered when I was with him. We got pretty close with him over time, and a while later, my brother Lazarus, I don't know if you heard about this, but he became pretty sick. We called for Jesus to come. We knew about, the things he had done, and we called for him to come, and we were sure that he would come right away. We just knew it. We thought he's going to come, and everything's going to be fine. But by the time he actually arrived, Lazarus, he had actually died and been in his tomb for 4 days. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. He did come. Martha met with him, and then he asked for me. I met with him, and all I could do was weep. I said, Jesus, if you had come, if you had been here, Lazarus wouldn't have died. He wouldn't have died. But then Jesus said something that I will never forget, something that just seems crazy, but he told us, he said, roll the stone away. We said, what? Roll the stone away from Lazarus' tomb. We said, okay. That seems different, we didn't think, we didn't know what to do, but, Jesus told us to do that, so we did it. We did it as crazy as it sounded. And Jesus says, Lazarus, come out. And there, wrapped in linen still, came Lazarus, resurrected. After that day, so many people that had been gathered around, they began to believe in Jesus. They began to see who he was, the type of person he was, and why he was no ordinary man, which I already knew. A little bit later, we got to spend a little bit more time with Jesus. It was just this past week, actually. We had Jesus come to our place. We wanted to honor him. And, of course, Martha was scurrying around, getting the house ready, had the food, the table set, serving, and I was with Jesus. But I kept thinking, what can I do? What can I do? What can I do to serve him? I wanted to do something for Jesus. I kept thinking about all that he had done, all that he was to us. And then it hit me, and I knew what I wanted to do. So I ran, and I got my expensive perfume, the perfume that I'd been saving. And I ran, I brought it out, I broke the jar, and I began to pour it over Jesus, over his feet. And the people that were there, everyone, they got so upset with me, especially Judas. I still remember what he said. He said, that was a year's worth of wages. What are you doing? What a waste. But to me, I didn't care, because with Jesus, nothing was wasted. Nothing. And then today, I was just thinking about those feet, the feet that I had put the perfume on, the feet that I had sat at and learned so much from, just looking and listening to him. Those same feet were pierced on a cross. There were a few days, it was just only days ago that he was celebrated, coming into Jerusalem, celebrated. And now he's gone. He's crucified. He's crucified. He was the king. He was the Messiah. What have they done?
I will praise you, Lord my God. Even in my brokenness, I will praise you, Lord. I will praise you, Lord my God. Even in my desperation, I will praise you, Lord. And I can't understand all that you allow. I just can't see the reason. But my life is in your hands, and though I cannot see you, I choose to trust you. Even when my heart is torn, I will praise you, Lord. Even when my field is deserted, I will praise you, Lord. Even in the darkest valley, I will trust you, Lord. And when my world is shattered and it seems all hope is gone, yet will I praise you. Yet will I praise